Much. Perhaps now somebody from this side, please.
Good morning. My name is Bram Bourriot. I'm president of Socialist Youth. I'm from Belgium. You said a whole series of big challenges you had. You just mentioned the terrorist challenge. But of course, the number one challenge right now is the economical and the financial crisis. But sometimes it seems that this crisis overshadows the previous big crisis, the global warming crisis. Now, how do you see to combine both of these challenges to make sure that you restabilize the economical markets, but in the same time make sure that we're looking for some sort of duurzame, equitable development of our energy-consuming way of life? And thank you.
That's an excellent question, because it's a perfect example of the immediate crisis that has to be dealt with, namely the global economic crisis, and a crisis that is just as important, but which decision makers could be tempted to put off to another day. And that would be a mistake. In the stimulus package, which President Obama requested and was passed by our Congress, there are significant investments in green technologies, in renewable energy, in moving toward a new electricity grid, new ways to fuel transportation, very large investments in basic science. So we are long overdue in stepping up and making these investments. But we, in a sense, use the economic crisis to actually get them through over political objections and other kinds of obstacles that had to be moved out of the way. There is no doubt in my mind that the energy security and climate change crises, which I view as being together, not separate, must be dealt with. That is why in his recent address to the Congress, President Obama said that we will present to our Congress and do what we can through executive authority to move toward a cap-and-trade system, something that we've learned about from your initial efforts. This is a learning experience for all of us about how best to design our climate, our global climate change regulatory framework and mechanisms. And the questions that we all have to deal with is how to bring in the entire world in the lead up to Copenhagen. So when I was in Asia, I spoke about this in Japan, in South Korea, in Indonesia, in China, offering to work in partnership, because certainly the United States has been negligent in facing up to our responsibilities. We have historically been the largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, but China has now surpassed us in that. And so we've got to bring in China and India and Indonesia and other developing countries. It is not going to be enough for Europe and the United States to try to do some things. We have to have a global response. And it will be difficult to convince some governments and the peoples that they represent that now is the time, given the crisis. But I think, from our administration's perspective, this is a propitious time. If we approach it as an opportunity to make these investments through our stimulus packages, we can actually begin to demonstrate our willingness to confront this and have some positive experiences that we can take with us into Copenhagen. The President and I appointed a special climate change envoy. We obviously had to demonstrate that our new administration was 100% committed, because, as you know, our government had not been prior to the change in the White House. And we are making up the best we can for lost time. We have problems within our own country trying to persuade people that this is economically smart to make these investments now, but we are committed to doing that. And we just have to continue to make the case. Now, the energy security piece of this is especially important for Europe. And I was very pleased the President told me, and others with whom I've spoken from the EU Commission have also made the point that Europe is working to establish a a European approach to energy security, so that individual nations are not, put in a very difficult position trying to secure enough energy. There needs to be a joint effort both to create new forms of producing energy while securing existing energy supplies, and I think this is a very important subject for the EU to address, a new grid, new pipelines, and everything that comes with it. But we can't lose sight of the fact that even while we're trying to provide the necessities for people, all of us have to change behaviors. We have to have government incentives to encourage us to change our energy usage and the kind of energy that we are buying. And we have to have a framework within which that operates. So I'm actually excited by this opportunity. I'm very well aware that we are not yet through this economic crisis, but we have the chief of staff for President Obama is an old friend of mine and my husband's, and was in the White House when Bill was there, and he said, never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact on climate change and energy security, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, so crisis is a chance, and thank you for your answer, and I may inform you that the European Parliament has finalized its legislation concerning climate change in December, and we were waiting for the new administration that we have the leadership together, and so the others can join in, and we hopefully, as Secretary Clinton said, we will get an agreement then in Copenhagen in December.